Hey everybody, it's Chad here from Ripple Real Estate, broker by EXP. I'm here on my second webinar. We're here with Stacy Keyser, and she's a mental health professional at Rapid City Counseling. During this global epidemic where most of us in the world are in isolation, and there's an echo chamber of information, worrying about our health, our loved ones, the economic impact. And I think it's important that leaders in the area, we hear from those professionals. So let's give it up for Stacy. Thanks for joining me. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and a little bit about yourself?
So first of all, thank you, Chad, for asking me to come on and just speak with the community as far as the mental health concerns and kind of how that plays into the whole coronavirus and the pandemic that we're facing across the world. I will tell you that COVID-19 has kind of really brought a whole different level of attention to mental health. And with your first question, being who am I and what am I about? I own and operate Rapid City Counseling Incorporated, which is a private practice facility serving the Black Hills area for people who suffer from mental health diagnosis situations such as depression, anxiety, PTSD, and just kind of overall stress, And so we serve the communities of children, adolescents, adults, couples, and so that pretty much covers the gamut of those who are in need of these types of services. We do have some openings with another one of our clinicians right now. However, even with this pandemic, I feel like I'm busier than ever, and I feel it's a double-edged sword as far as being in this practice of mental health, because it's really we're all very well aware of the need for mental health, but the stigma is actually kind of being that curtain's kind of being lowered and that wall's kind of coming down because of the COVID-19. People who never before experienced mental health concerns such as the stress, the anxiety, it's showing up for people that aren't even used to knowing what is that all about. So I think that as we talk about mental health and as we talk about how it relates to COVID-19, it's being talked about so much in the media that it is really lowering that wall and the curtains coming down. And I'm so incredibly excited to see that, because now people recognize that it is a real thing, and it, as your day-to-day person experiences it, they feel like there's more out there for them to go out and reach out to people and get the help that they need. So I think that stigma that we've always heard of, if you go out and get help, then there's something truly wrong with you. And I like to say it's the strong people who are going out to get help.
Yeah, I can see that. Do you think there's a lot of people that just don't even know that they're suffering from, they think, well, I'm tough, I can handle these things and I can cope, I've got my own coping skills. Do you think there's a lot of people that have, certain mental illness and don't even know that?
I'm going to answer that on both sides. I would say definitely yes. When you say that they have it, they don't know that they have it. It usually comes by the way of certain symptoms, depending on what you might be struggling with. And it usually takes a loved one in our lives that says to us, you seem to be anxious, you seem to be angry, you seem to be sad. And so
Off.
it's usually the ones in our lives that love us that bring it to our attention, that say, hey, I think something's going on here. So yeah, I think sometimes you can have some of that stuff going on and you don't even realize it till someone that cares enough about you points it out to you.
Stacy, is there a link between mental health and physical health?
Oh my goodness. So glad you asked that question, because that is absolutely huge in every one of my treatment plans, but I'm going to go ahead and speak specifically to depression. So what a treatment plan is, just, this is my plan to work with you with your mental health issues. And then we say, hey, does that sound reasonable to you? So it's a plan of action. And so if we're talking about depression, in every treatment plan for depression, there's a component called self-care. And the component of self-care is talked about with every single session. It is, are you getting enough sleep? We talk about their sleep patterns. We talk about sleep hygiene. Are you getting enough exercise? So in this time that COVID is really upon us, we're in spring. And so we do have that opportunity to get outside and get some exercise, get some fresh air. The other component of that is are you eating correctly? And I think some people are in this situation. Of course, some people aren't. But physical health is definitely profoundly connected to mental health. We go out and exercise, and it pumps up our levels of endorphins. It gets our adrenaline pumped up. Okay, those two chemicals are absolutely 100% necessary to be lifted and high when we have any type of mental health concerns going on, whether that be anxiety, depression, stress. Okay, and so when we go out and get that physical activity, and then we get done and we're like, wow, that walk felt amazing, that hike felt great, that bike ride, that run, that yoga, that whatever I did, that's why we feel that way when we get done. It's because we brought those chemicals up in our brain. So there is a very strong pattern of connection there.
Okay. How about any supplements? Is there anything that can help people with, to feel better that, our bodies need?
Absolutely. Of course, have to be under doctor's care to even to go down this route. But we talk a lot about getting vitamin D.
Okay.
Vitamin D is at the top of the list, and in our area, especially because we have so many months where we're sitting inside for the majority of our days. And that vitamin D is brought onto our bodies through the exposure of sunlight. But even in our area, because we don't get enough exposure to the sunlight, vitamin D will help lift some of those sadness, depressive, anxious mindsets that we have going on with our brain chemistry. And so vitamin D is at the top of that list. Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. So we are social animals. We like to be near the ones we love, friends, family, and we can't be near them. How can we replace that?
Well, I guess through the computer. I'll start with that first, saying that opportunities like Zoom and FaceTime, there's a new app that a lot of my friends have been showing up on now called House Party. And House Party is just an app where you enter the room, if you will. You enter the chat room, and your friend knows you're there because they're your friend on there. And then so your friend can come in the room and say, hey. So you can do that with family and friends, and you get that video, that FaceTime. It's real-time experience with your friends or your family members. So that's kind of the social media platform way of doing things. Of course, FaceTime. The other thing is that there's been a lot of talk about people being out with their friends, but being very diligent about the social distancing space of 6 to 10 feet. And they're going on walks, they're meeting in parking lots, and they're sitting in the back of their SUVs, and they're meeting there for coffee and breakfast. I mean, some friends and I are doing it tomorrow evening, and
fun.
we're going to have a barbecue, but we're going to all be in our 6 feet apart in our own spaces so that we can still get together. And I think that having that time with our friends and family and getting that person, that human contact, that human contact is so, so incredibly important with our mental health.
Awesome. Yeah, it's getting together, but in a responsible way. So,
right. Yeah, absolutely. Being responsible about how we do that.
So what are some of the mental health symptoms to look for? We have friends, family, employees. This could, be useful for employers.
Mhm, mhm. So I think that when we talk about the different symptoms that we can be aware of, um, I might start with that stress one. And I might say, if we notice that we have an employee who's really edgy, that irritable level, it's just kind of under the surface. And they're doing their job, but they're a little edgy. They're, kind of coming off as a little rough around the edges or snapping at people, and that is definitely a sign that they're holding in some issues, some concerns that they're not talking about, and so they lash out at others.
Hmm.
And then you've got the isolation where they're coming to work, or they're getting their work done online, but they're not talking unless they're being talked to, and we know that that's not their personality.
Hmm.
We might know that John or Jane are really good about communicating what's going on in their life, and all of a sudden now they're not doing that. That's definitely a concern, because they're isolating and they're secluding themselves from their roles for some other reason, and we got to try to dig it out and figure out what's going on with them. Another one might be sleeping too much or sleeping too little. We find that on the side of depression and sadness, people want to sleep too much. On the side of anxiety, they're not sleeping enough, because with anxiety, stress, and worry, they're staying awake when they need to be sleeping. They're keeping odd hours, so they're not getting the quality sleep that they need. So with employers, that might be something like, just asking them, how is their schedule going at home? Are they able to get online and do their work on their regular timetable? Or if there's something that they can help them with to minimize their workload so that they can get rest again. So those are definitely something to look for. And then maybe on a more serious level, if somebody starts talking about, not wanting to be here, not wanting to exist, not being hopeful of a future, really disconnecting from those that they love, and then saying things like, yeah, what does it matter? I don't really care what happens to me. Those are signs that there's something a little bit more serious going on, that we might inquire, and never be afraid. I always tell people, don't be afraid to talk about that with someone that you might suspect that may be having some
Hmm.
signs of suicide, because there's a stigma, Chad, that if we talk about suicide or death, we're putting the thoughts in their head, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Those thoughts are already there. What we're actually doing is we're helping bring them to the surface.
Sure.
We're not going to make the situation worse by talking about it. We're actually making the situation better by talking about it.
Okay. Yeah, I watched a special talking about, if we're dealing with the same situation, it's good to kind of relate, tell them how you are doing, and they'll be more receptive, and it'll kind of break the barriers, and they'll maybe more receptive to opening up, and just letting you know how they're really doing. So.
So I might add to that, Chad, and what we call that in the therapy world is we call that validation. And
Hmm.
so you would say something to the nature of, I know you've been really stressed out and sad lately, or I know you've been really down and out lately, and am I on? Am I spot on? Am I missing it? Opening that door for them to talk about it. But your validation says, hey, I notice you. I notice something's not right for you right now. I notice that there's something going on with you right now. And then after you open that validation and they affirm that, then you can say, you know what? I want you to know that I'm feeling it. I'm feeling stressed, and I've had my days where I just feel like I can't keep doing this.
Mhm.
So when you do that, then yes, you're relating to them, but you first want to open up that door of validation and affirm for them that you hear them, you understand them, and give them that space to
Okay.
talk about it.
Yeah, we're living in kind of a crazy world. Everybody has their thing. And everybody copes differently. So, Stacy, can you talk about ways to manage that stress or, like you said, self-care?
So one of the things that I've been telling um, my adults as well as my children's parents is consistency is paramount for each and every one of us. It's really hard to keep a consistent schedule right now because of the way that we're sheltering in place. So I tell everyone, like, get up and take your shower, brush your teeth, get yourself dressed for work.
Even if you're at home.
Even if you're at home, probably more importantly,
Mhm.
because it does something to your mental well-being and your mental status when you present yourself in a way that feels, and then I'm taking care of myself, I'm doing that. So keeping your consistent schedule with work, keeping your consistent schedule with your eating, keeping your consistent schedule with your workout, keeping your consistent schedule with your family time, so sitting down to dinner at 6 or 6:30, and maybe before it was also rushed with soccer practice and gymnastics and piano practice, but now actually maybe we are actually getting to sit down as a family at the dinner table, and let that be a part of your consistency at home for your family as we're sitting down to do dinner, and then keeping that consistent pattern of doing your devotions, doing your prayers, doing your meditation in the evening, doing your private self-care time of reading a book and working on your studies, and just keeping that schedule as consistent as possible. I'm just going to say that is probably one of the most important things we can do right now, is keep our lives consistent.
Okay. Stacy, do you work with mindfulness and meditation or anything like that?
Yeah, a lot. I do. I have a lot of individuals who say, I know what you're going to tell me. And I say, okay, then you need to be doing it, because sometimes what we have to be well aware of is that the things that we say to ourselves, the self-talk that goes on in our head, every one of us has it. And so on a given day, it might be, oh man, I got to do this all over again. Or, oh gosh, I hate doing this from home, or I feel kind of stupid today. I feel kind of crappy today. I feel kind of down today. So that's that negative self-talk. So one way that guided meditation is absolutely amazing is it'll help us learn how to reframe that self-talk. So it coaches us, and we listen to it with words and music to get our brains on track, and away from the negative self-talk. And so as you're listening to the guided meditation, minds wander. That's what our brains do. The guided meditation just kind of helps you come in and out of those flows of thoughts that can be healthy.
Okay,
And so I recommend meditation all the time. Yeah.
awesome. Do you have any recommendation for people that have children and that are going through this, some anxiety themselves?
Mm-hmm. So one of the recommendations I'm making, of course, with parents is that they keep that schedule consistent for their children. And just like we as adults get really anxious, or not anxious, but fidgety as we sit at the computer for hours on end, is allowing the children to get up, go take breaks, get outside, get some fresh air, get some exercise. And then if the parents are having anxiety, I recommend a little bit of a problem solving, rational thinking skills of what's in my control, what's outside of my control, and what are the steps I'm taking to make sure that I get my child on track with all of their schooling that they need to get done, as well as that personal well-being that needs to be in place for them. So what am I doing there? And then what is outside of my realm of control?
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's within my control, I'm doing all these things. If it's outside of my realm of control, I'm going to let those things go. I'm going to know that I'm really doing the best I can with the situation I have right now, and the rest I'm going to let it go.
We're sort of burning energy when we're obsessing about the things that we can't control, aren't we?
When
And
you say, yeah, we are 100% burning a lot of energy that can be used in different avenues that are more productive
mm-hmm.
and healthier for us, that can actually produce things that will help us feel better, rather than spending energy on something that we can't do anything about.
Awesome. Yeah, that's all the questions I have, Stacy. Do you have any final thoughts? You know, one of my biggest things is, you know, we're just being force-fed just an overwhelming amount of information. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, what information is good? You know, should we be, you know, on the internet getting our information from social media? Should we, you know, it's probably hard because we've got it right there in our hand all day long. So
you make a super valid point, with the point that maybe we just need to put that device down for a while, and step away from all of our electronic devices and go out and be in nature, and go out and just enjoy that presence of the moment.
mm-hmm.
And then, you know, after taking that time to be present in our world, in nature, and then it's time to go back inside, is to be very careful about how much time we're spending on social media. Be very careful about how much time we're spending on PBS, NBC, ABC, Fox News, CNN, all of that. Like, really limiting how much time we're spending on that. Maybe check it in the morning for 15 minutes, check it at night for 15 minutes, and the rest of the day, just let it be. And then I would say this in any situation: consider the source. Like, are you using sources that are good and valid and grounded and backed by research? So if you see something on Facebook, if it's a link, take the link and see if it's got anything valid behind it. But don't just take out that random advice that's just out there, because you're right, there's a lot of information. And I think that professionals, myself included, we're trying to put out a lot of good information, but in layman's terms, it's hard to sort out the good from the bad, right? Because we don't know what's truth and what's fact and what's fiction, and there's just so much. So yes, be careful with what you take as truth when you're on the internet, as far as especially mental health. So if it's a source that seems reputable, you know, there's just so many. I wish I could have had a list ready for you. I really do, because we do have a lot of great resources. I would recommend that if anyone watching has a provider, to just, you know, reach out to their provider and say, hey, I'm looking at this, or I would like to get more research on anxiety, stress, depression, PTSD. Where do I go? Our website, we have lots of links as well. And that is rapidcitycounselors.com.
Okay.
And there's resources there. We also have a Facebook page that has a lot of resources there. And I think just in general, if you type in counseling on Facebook or on the internet, most of your top hits are pretty good stuff. If you get past the ads, of course.
Oh, sure. And I just wanted to put a plug out there too for any vets like me. You know, the VA has a great program. You know, you can call in and talk to anyone.
Right.
So, but yeah, Stacy, I really appreciate you doing this today. I think it's very important, and I think that, you know, everybody's dealing with some form of you know, stress or whatever, but we needed to know how to manage that stress, how to be healthy, so that we can be productive members of society, take care of our family, take care of all the things, because it's eventually going to go away and we're going to get back to normal. So there's a bright side to this. Um, you know, I as a leader in the Air Force, you know, I talked about the ability to adapt
Mhm.
and you know, taking care of yourself is number one. So everybody out there, if you know of anybody that could use a little help, you know, Stacy's here. There's plenty of resources. So be well, take care of yourself, and there's a light at the end of this pandemic quarantine. So thank you very much, Stacy, and take care.
Thanks for having me on today, Chad. I appreciate it. And I just want to leave everyone with the notion that reach out when you know that there's just so much out there for online help right now with the telehealth that it's available to anyone.
Awesome. Thanks,
Okay.
Stacy. Take
Yeah.
care.
Thanks for having me.